everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and I'm very excited today to be checking out Skyrim, the board game from Modiphius. And this game is landing on GameFound for November 2nd. So depending on when this video actually launches, the campaign may have already started, or it might just be days away. But either way, the point of this video is to show you how the game flows and operates from a solo perspective, to give you an idea as to whether or not this game is for you. So we'll go through a handful of rounds here to show you all that gameplay, but a couple disclaimers right off the top here. First off, inside of this tabletop simulator mod here, we are missing the market section of the game. That's not included here, but it is a big aspect of the final game, just not shown here. And you'll be able to interact with the markets when you're in the major strongholds, which you can see just along the top section of the board here. And they might be a little far away right now, but don't worry, we'll get in real close in a moment when we get into the gameplay. The other thing I want to mention is that the decks here around the table are actually quite thin. There's only a handful of cards for each of them. However, in the final version, of course, there is a ton of cards beyond this. So this is just a snippet of the gameplay on purpose to show kind of the tutorial of the game. And that's exactly what we're going to walk through right now. Now, something I really want to hammer home here that I really enjoyed about not only meeting up with Modiphius in order to walk through this, but also playing this off camera, was checking out the solo rules inside the rulebook and seeing that there was literally just a couple paragraphs of changes to what you need to do for setup in order to enjoy this game solo. In other words, there's not a whole other bunch of pages you have to take in after learning the main game in order to just adapt this for solo play. So this is going to be up solo gamers' alley right from the get-go, just in terms of how things were developed and also the streamlining of the rules. I really, really like it, and you'll see that in play as we go through. So without further ado, I'm going to talk quickly about the overarching goal of the game. Now, the goal of the game is that the players are going to take on the roles of heroic adventurers in Skyrim, members of the Blades organization, and during the game, they will advance through a compelling story of conspiracies, war, and intrigue, where their actions and decisions have a lasting impact on the world around them. To win the game, the players must advance through the main quest cards. Failing a main quest, though, doesn't necessarily mean losing the game. It is possible to be unsuccessful and still end up victorious. However, each chapter has a set of conditions that could mean losing the game, and at the end of each chapter, players will face a final test. Each test differs according to the chapter, and it could be anything from an epic battle to a desperate race against time. Failing this test would also mean defeat for the players, and when a chapter is lost, the players have the option of continuing the game, although their failure will make the next chapter more challenging. And this is something I really like, is the fact that overall, you can continue to progress inside of this game even if you fail. The world is just going to evolve and change along with it. Things like individuals or blades are going to disappear from the game forever based on failing of quests or interactions with the different narrative choices in the game. Obviously, the narrative choices presented throughout are going to give forks in the road that will shut off side quests that were available if you were to successfully complete them or even undertake them in the first place. So what's really cool is there's a lot of replayability here, and even on the enemy side, in terms of going after some enemies inside of a dungeon, you are going to have enemies that are going to show up and they may disappear and never come back. As you level up and progress, the lower level enemies are going to make their way out of the dungeons as you clear them more easily, and now you no longer need to continually interact with these low level creatures, and the stronger enemies are going to remain and give you and keep you on your toes as you basically fight them throughout the world of Skyrim. So there's a lot going on here, and I hope to cover everything in just a few moments, but let's first talk about the character I've selected. Now, it's worth mentioning that when this mod was loaded at the beginning, there was 4 characters to choose from. I chose to go for the Khajiit. I really want to show you guys this individual mainly because I like the sneak skill. It's something I always even liked when I was playing the video game itself. So you can see here we've got lots of stuff going on with this character. Night vision here. In combat, you lose 1 health to gain 1 sneak, and you start with claws, not fists. So there's the claws right there. And then you have ragged robes, which also give you a boost to sneak as well as some armor, for yellow armor that is. And then you have a potion of minor healing over here. We have our health track, which of course hits its max right here. And then we have the endurance down below, or stamina, and then magicka at the very bottom. Over here we have a couple of resources, as you can see actually depicted right inside. There's 3 different colors for the 3 different types of resources, and they're up here, so you can see soul gems, you got plants, and you have ore. And when you start the game, you get 2 plants going into it. Your XP gets tallied up right here as you gain it, and then once you get up to 7, you start unlocking tiles, and the tiles can be found right here. Things like illusion or conjuration or sneak. Of course, I don't even have sneak unlocked yet on my character, but that is one that makes a lot of sense for this individual. And as you can see on the card itself, it says after learning sneak. So once we get up to 7 XP and start unlocking abilities and we learn sneak, we start accessing these different types of cool abilities. And same with pickpocketing. If we upgrade, or I should say level up and choose pickpocketing, we're going to be able to gain 2 gold in every single encounter that we go through, whether it be a variation of different encounters. And the other thing we have here is our miniature. We have our first player token, which is sitting right now on our character we've chosen, and that's about it for this board here for the most part. Now, we also have a character card upside down, so this comes from one of the 3 characters I decided not to use, and I believe there are 6 in the base game, but you can check the campaign page for more information on all of them. This is really just represented as one of the solo tweaks in the setup, that you take one of the other character cards, it doesn't matter which one, flip it upside down and place it next to your board. And the reason for this is because as every round of play goes on, as you're playing solo, you're going to move the first player marker from your character's card to this card and then back to this one. It's going to continue to go back and forth. And really, this is just a reminder, when this token lands on this card, for that round of play, you will not draw an event. Now, events, as you're going to see very soon as I go through the gameplay, they have obviously events that are going to occur within the world of Skyrim, but there's things like threat that's going to be thrown on quests that's going to potentially have you fail them. It's kind of like a silent timer in the game, so it's not constantly, and when you say the word timer, a lot of people go, oh no, it's a game with a timer. It's a very, you have tons of ways to mitigate that. The threat that you gain can be placed on the quest up to a certain threshold before they're discarded and failed. You also have the ability to place threat on strongholds up here, which, as you can see from the chart right here, the strongholds will start to degrade depending on which of these you've filled in. So if you put a threat token right here, you've now made Whiterun unstable, which means you can no longer access the market. As I mentioned earlier, there's no market in this, so I'm not going to be able to go into specifics around that, but some of these icons relate to the different types of items that you could gain from being in the market. Other ones relate to the resources that are definitely here sitting in this tabletop simulator mod. And of course, as you just mount up more threat in these locations, which is a way you could mitigate it so that it doesn't land on the quest cards that you have down here, you can actually start to, well, degrade the strongholds to the point that things are really going to start piling up on you. Like, you're going to have full-on rioting, and then more threats going to be coming. So there are ways to mitigate it, and it is a silent timer that way, because it's not immediately going to happen. You're going to be able to prepare and strategize around it, which is a lot of fun. So what has changed in terms of the setup? Well, for solo, I shouldn't say what has changed, but what do you need to know around the solo setup? This right here, which I just explained. The other thing is, for solo players, you're going to take out 180, 181, and 182 for that first chapter, and this is just to ensure that when you get into that particular story arc, you're going to start at 183. Beyond that, that's literally it. Then we've got this card right here, 209, Tainted Haven, is going to be the card we're pulling based on the setup instructions. We're going to read this in a moment, and then we're also going to grab, which I've already pulled out, 160 all the way to 163. If you're familiar with Skyrim, you always know you start in dire straits, you start in a dungeon, you're trapped, arrested, you're framed, something terrible has happened, and you kind of work your way from, sitting in a cell with nothing going on that's any kind of a positive thing, to becoming someone who's kind of a champion by the end of it, and that's exactly how this game's going to start you out as well. Normally you'd shuffle these up and choose one at random. I'm just going to go ahead with the arrested one. So for now, what I'll do is I'll bring this story card down here. We're going to read it, and then it's going to basically just be discarded. The arrested card is going to be considered our main quest, so it's going to actually sit in the quest location on our sideboard here, and this is going to drive us towards what's going on in the world. You can have one main quest at any given time right here, and then up to 2 side quests beside it. And you'll see that as we actually progress through the game, how those side quests will just start popping up, and then it's up to you as to whether or not you want to proceed or go after them. Card 209 states, Tainted Haven, year 175 of the 4th era. The Great War rages across Tamriel. A group of young Blades recruits go on their first mission, a patrol around the forests of Cyrodiil. A Thalmor ambush catches them off guard, and they barely escape alive. Upon returning to their camp, they find it desolated. The Thalmor have been here. Cyrodiil is not safe for them anymore. They escape to Skyrim, far from the Thalmor's clutches. In Skyrim, the Reachmen have conquered Markarth, and tensions between them and the Nords are rising. So in terms of a time period or time frame, this is about 25 years before the Dragonborn. So we're going to go ahead and just move this card off, and I will actually flip it over so you guys can see the opposite side, because it does have special rules in some chapters, but this chapter doesn't have any special rules. It states chapter failure. If a main quest card reaches its threat limit, the chapter's lost, and we pull 212 and find out what it says. So we'll go ahead and just drop this down here. Maybe we'll just place it way over here so we don't get it mistaken with anything else. And we're going to come down here and take a look at our arrested card and read it. For months, I've been rebuilding my life in Windhelm. One day, guards break into my home and arrest me for no apparent reason. I'm thrown in an empty cell and left there to rot. The guards show up drunk at night, celebrating my capture. One of them falls asleep close to my door. I can see the keys poking out of his pocket, and while he is still asleep, grab them. I escape through the Windhelm jail. My path takes me to the barracks where one of the guards who arrested me sleeps. I search through his belongings until I find a mysterious note. So at this point, we're going to flip this over, and it states, to all Windhelm guards, and this of course is the note that's being read, dangerous criminals are living in your midst. Their names are behind this letter. You must find and capture them. You'll be handsomely rewarded. On the back of the letter, it says, on the back of the letter, I find a list of names of Blades, mine included. Place your player figure in Windhelm. So we're going to do that right now. So we're going to take our player figure and bring it all the way over here to Windhelm. So now we know where we are on the board, and we have 2 options right out of the gate. Now, it's worth mentioning these 2 options. You'll notice in the first couple words, they mention assistance twice. One of them is actually supposed to be more of an aggressive option, and it's just an incorrect, wording within this particular mod here in TTS. So that will be corrected, I believe, in the final version from the understanding I got from Modiphius while playing through this. So one will be more of an aggressive, and one will be more asking for assistance. But knowing that my character is more on the sneak side of things, I think I'm going to go, well, I guess in this case, I'm not too sure which one's which, but I think I'll go option 2, which is I'll seek the assistance of an information broker to find this individual, and I have to choose 2 equipment cards at this point and pull 166. So we've got ourselves a little bit of digging to go through in the equipment deck. So we have 18 cards here. So if we take a look at these cards, and I will pull them all out, there are 2 of each of them. This is going to basically make up your, starting equipment that can be picked up from, and the 2 equipment cards is talking about are going to come from here. So what I'm going to want to do is take a look at my character and see what I could potentially get from here that could bolster my character, maybe make it better, or try to build out a character that has nothing to do with my strengths that I already have. You can go, any way you choose with this. So here are all the cards laid out, and here's a closer view of all of them. So taking a look across them here, and again, knowing full well that I have the sneak ability at my disposal, it being a very, very useful trait, I'm going to probably lean towards the hide armor here, because this would be a nice upgrade over the rags that I'm currently wearing. I do believe I still have 2 armor for my yellow, which again, all the armor is in different colors, and you'll see this more in combats. But if we come over here, it's actually a 1, so it actually would increase my armor there, but it also, I think, gives me a boost. yeah, I mean, it gives me a boost in the armor, which is a plus already. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And then taking a look at the rest of these and going through them, the one that intrigues me probably the most would likely be the Iron Dagger, I think. And that's because it has a sneak 1 damage times 2, which could be really, really useful. Again, if I wanted to pair up my individual with a lot of sneak type stuff. And I mean, this is probably the obvious route for this character, being that sneak is my thing. I don't have to do this though. I can build out anybody, because when you upgrade your character and move on, you have all these abilities up top here to run through, right? That you could become proficient at, right? So lots of things. So coming down here, we have to now kind of load out our character. So we picked these 2 things up. I've got the ragged robes up here, so I'm going to probably toss these, or I'll just move them aside for now at least. And we're going to put the hide armor up here, and then we're going to take the claw card and put it down here. And we'll put our Iron Dagger up here. Now, I'm not going to worry about talking too much about the market side of this stuff like this, but as you can see, there's the ability to go ahead and sell things, right? You can see in the bottom left-hand corner, you can even shows crafting as well. So you have a lot going on with cards, but you don't really have to worry about this too much because, again, in this particular demo here, we don't have a market to interact with and any stronghold to potentially sell any of our gear. So I'm just going to put that stuff down here. There's no sell value on them that I can see anyway. These are basic, starting equipment, starting gear. But now we've upgraded things. So we have a little bit better of a loadout than we did before, which is going to be kind of handy, I think, going forward. So we need to get 166 from the deck. This is a really cool aspect of this. You can literally just click on this and go 166, and you get the card exactly the one that you need. Now I'm going to take these ones and put them out of the way because we don't need these anymore. And we'll take a look at this quest. So this quest now replaces the other quest that was down here because we've already chosen the option. So this card is going to go away. I'll place that down there. New card in here, and it states Runaway. I decide to look for my blade friend, Carolean, the hunter, at his house in Winterhold. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. At the very top right, you'll see a number there that represents threat. So as we start putting threat out, remember I told you before, you can fail a quest if you have as much threat as it's up in his top right-hand corner in terms of its threshold. So if I put 4 threat on this, this is going to flip over and it's going to fail. But I have other ways to mitigate threat by, like I said earlier, dropping things up here and kind of, putting a little bit of a damper and degrading the strongholds up top. All right, so it also mentions here Winterhold, and it shows a quest icon we're all very familiar with from the video game. So I'm going to go ahead and grab one of those in order to place a quest marker down. Now, because we have, just to mention this too, we have global quest markers, so it is possible that you could have a global quest marker needing to come out from a major world quest. We don't currently have any at the moment, but we're going to go ahead and grab this yellow one right now, and I'm going to place this at Winterhold. So Winterhold is over here, which is actually not that far away from you. As you can see, it's not a long journey to get there. So that is very, very doable. So we're going to go ahead and grab from the event deck in order to start off the very first turn. So as of right now, we're officially set up, but if you do want to see the turn sequence, I do have it here on the left-hand side of the screen. We'll be walking through all this stuff quite quickly anyway. So we're going to go to the event right now. I've turned it sideways. We're going to go ahead and draw the first card off and flip it over. And you can see there's 2 sections here, an event active and event discard. If it's just one that's a regular event, it'll go in the event discard. If it's an active one, it sits here and it's going to stay there until another event that's active comes and replaces it. For now, we just have it here. Daedric Invasion. So move 1 Daedra token toward the nearest stronghold. So this is going to be all about pushing that particular token on the board around the board. If it reaches a stronghold, degrade it and remove the token. If there are no Daedra tokens on the board, place one in a forest space or a wilderness space. And there's also 2 threat to be had here. So let's go ahead and grab the Daedra token. There's a number of tokens here. We have Vampire, Thalmor, Justicar, Dunmore, Cultist, Dragon, Troll, all that good stuff. So we're going to go ahead and grab the Daedra token here, and we're going to place it, as it states here, in a wilderness space. Now this gives us lots of options on the board because you'll see the green diamond wilderness spaces all over the place. We really don't want this anywhere near a stronghold. That's just based on the game mechanics of this eventually getting towards a stronghold. It'll try to reach it, as you can see here, and degrade it, which we don't want. So we don't want to put it somewhere where it's going to be close to one. So we also don't necessarily want one near us because I don't really want to interact with it this soon because I'm probably not strong enough to handle it. I haven't even leveled up yet, so I'm going to probably place it down here for now. It's 2 spaces away from the nearest stronghold, but that's relatively out of the way of other strongholds and myself too, so that's fine. Now we also have 2 threat we have to place, and again, I could choose to place this 2 threat in here and start degrading strongholds and losing the ability to use the market. Obviously, it's not going to matter too much in this play because the market doesn't exist based on it not being a part of this, but in the full game, that would be pretty, unfortunate to not be able to go to the market and do that, but for now I'm going to do what I think I would do if I was actually playing with everything in, and that is to place 2 threat down here on my card. So I'll go ahead and put them right there. Now, the one thing to mention is as soon as you clear a card, so once you clear this, once I get to this objective pointer or this quest in Winterhold and clear the objective, then the threat goes with it. So that's one way to mitigate threat, is just to remove it, is to actually successfully remove the card as well. So we've now gone ahead and resolved an event, and we can begin our turn. So at this point in time, you'll see here that we have the ability to move. We can move up to 4 spaces, and of course if we happen to have a horse, we can move extra space. We have the ability to take a carriage potentially. There's all kinds of other things that we may not see during these handful of rounds, but in terms of movement we have up to 4, and the only location on the board that if I move through is going to cause me to interact with that immediately in terms of a battle is going to be this individual I put down here, the Draugr. So I don't want to go down that way because I don't think I can handle it. I'm going to probably focus on the token that I have up here in Winterhold. So we're going to move 1 and 2, and it's also worth noting any extra movement you don't use once you move to a location you want to go to within your 4 movement is lost. So the other movement is going to disappear, but now we're here, which means we can go ahead and read this and then try to make the check here. So it says the place, oh, and the other thing I didn't mention actually is this level requirement right here. So sometimes a place will actually have a level requirement in the middle. In this particular case, it's just a 0, so it's a match perfectly for us, but maybe a side quest might come up later that's a higher level than we are, which is basically telling us we need to be a little bit more prepared for that versus just diving into it and hoping for the best. So it says the place is empty. A neighbor tells me he left in a rush a few weeks back. Inside, I realize he barely had time to gather his belongings. I look around for clues. All right, so we're going to do a roll right now. You'll see 3, and those are 3 dice depicted. And then we have a lock-picking skill, so we get an extra die if we have the lock-picking ability unlocked in one of the tiles in this space here. But we don't have enough XP to get there, so that's not going to happen. So right now, we're just grabbing 3 dice from the pool. And it's going to tell us we're looking for 1 of these triangle shapes right there in the bottom. So we just need 1 of them to pass, and additionally, we can actually add dice to the roll even after we've rolled the initial 3 dice by using one of the plants that we have, which is right here. We have 2 of them to start the game. For each one, we're able to push, giving us an extra die to roll to try to meet this result and get a positive, successful quest. So let's see if we can do this without needing to re-roll. That would be fantastic. All right. I don't know what happened there. I've never seen that happen ever, but I'll take it. I don't even need to roll this, but I'll just roll it because it was on top. I got 1 of almost everything here. Now, just in case you're wondering what's on all sides of these dice, you'll see 3 sides of the die have this kind of circular symbol. And then if we go through the other sides of the die, we have 1 here, the black diamond, with triangle, and another triangle. So the black diamond is the least common, and then the black diamond is least common, then the triangles are next up at 2, so 1, then 2 of these, and 3 of the circular icons. So we ended up nailing it anyway because, well, we got what we needed. We had this result, so that is a pass. We don't need to push anything. So we'll go ahead and flip this over, see what happens. A success means I open the trap chest without any problem and gain 5 gold and 2 experience. Well, pretty happy with that. I'm always going to be okay with taking gold. So we can flip them over and you'll see it's a 5 and then 2 experience. These have 3 on the opposite side, but we only got 2 right now, so we'll just go with that. We'll drag them down here and put them in their appropriate slots here. Gold down here, and we have our XP up top. So we're working our way up again. Remember, trying to get up to 7 in order to level up. So that was pretty good. That worked out. Now what do we have in the middle here? So it says, in a hidden compartment behind the bed, I find a note signed by Caroline, the hunter, addressed to any blades who find it. Someone was on his trail and he escaped. The note also mentions Movia's recent activities. He points at Movia and her hideout in an abandoned cave in Halffinger. So we have two options here. We can try to storm the hideout by ourselves, which I'm probably not going to do just because, well, I mean, I could. And that's the funny thing I could do. But my character likely is, being that it's a sneak character, would probably go down the path of trying to hire some mercenaries. So I'm going to probably lean that way. But you can go either way. You have these are the kind of forks in the road. They're going to change the entire outcome of the game as you make every single time you go through these main quests, right? So this is going to say we're going to hire mercenaries. We need card 174. So let's go over here and we'll find 174, pull it out of the deck. This card is going to replace this card, which is going to go down here into the discarded area. And we have a brand new quest. That also means the threat that was attached to that previous card has now been removed as well, which is fantastic. So we're mitigating threat by, again, progressing the quest. Clean hands. No need to break a sweat when I pay somebody else to do it for me. So this says we're going to move our quest marker for the main quest to a cave in Halffinger. And I always want to say Halffinger every single time I read that. So it's probably going to happen more than once. So we're just going to move this to that location. It has to be a cave. Does it have to be a cave? Yeah, it does. So we're going to go ahead and grab this one and we'll bring it all the way over here. And actually in this location, there is only one cave, so it has to go there. It's quite a ways away, but we will try to get there. All right, so at this point, you'll see in the middle there, it's a level 1. So it's saying that we should be at a point of being at level 1 in order to interact with this, but it's not a hard requirement that way. But we'll try to progress in that direction. So as of right now, that is going to do it for at least resolving one of the main quests, or I should say progressing the main quest. And at this point, we are now done our turn. So we're going to go ahead and move the first player token over to the other side here, starting a brand new round, which means we will not reveal an event this turn, which means we get a little bit of reprieve or a break from the nastiness, and we can do something else. So instead of drawing an event, we're going to just, I shouldn't say instead of, we're just not going to draw one. And now we get our movement allotment. So where do we want to move? Well, I do kind of want to make it over here, seeing as this is the, the main quest, but I also have the ability to stop in any of these locations. I could potentially stop in a wilderness location and draw a card from here. I could stop in another location and explore it. There's a whole bunch of different things to check out in here, but in terms of this demo, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and maybe down here to 4. So I'll go to this wooded area over here and we'll grab a card from this deck. All right, so what do we have here? We have Uglin Buglim. It's a valiant knight. I'm trying to get rid of these filthy vampires. Care to help? Now this is telling us right at the gates we get to gain a resource of our choice. So that's pretty awesome. It could be a plant or it could be, I forget what the blue one is off the top of my head. It is a soul gem. Now if you look at the card carefully before you get excited and grab it, you'll see down below that you're going to have a ritual to perform, and you'll see you'll be able to push if you happen to go with a specific type of resource. So it might be in our best interest to get that in case our roll doesn't go very well. So let's go ahead and grab a soul gem and we'll bring it down here and we'll drop it in with the rest of our resources. And now we're going to try to actually do this. So you can see on this roll, we need restoration if we want an additional die beyond the 3 we always get. But this time around, it's going to be tougher because we need to get 2 of the circular icons in order to succeed on 3 dice. So we probably will need to push this, but who knows? Maybe we'll get really, really lucky. Let's see how it goes. Oh, look at that. No need to push at all. We got exactly what we wanted. So down below here, it says we are going to, when we succeed at this quest, we're going to gain 2 experience. So that's fantastic. So I'm just going to simply flip this over. So now we have a total of 4 experience in here, which is pretty awesome. And we're going to now go ahead and discard this quest. And we're going to take card 130. And this is going to potentially lead us down a whole other path. Maybe a side quest. Ah, it is. Look at that. So 130. Let's make sure we grab the right card because I certainly wouldn't want to start the wrong chain of events. Now, side quests, again, remember, you can always have 1 main quest, 2 side quests. So we got a side quest sitting here now. Let's go ahead and read it and find out what it's all about. It says, For Honor and Glory, Part 1. Covered in blood, Oglan Buglum is elated. This is just the beginning. We need to purge the land of this scourge. Come with me. So we're going to go ahead and place a quest marker on a rune location in Winterhold. So let's go ahead and do that. And for the side quest, seeing as they're red, I'm going to use a red one. Now, normally when you're playing with multiple people, each person would have, you know, if you're playing multiplayer, each person would have their own quest markers, but when you're playing solo, they're all available. The only one not to use in this case would probably be the global ones, because they tie to the gigantic world quests that likely won't come up during this play, but they are in this deck. So all right, so we're going to go ahead and place this in a rune location in Winterhold. So where is that going to be? So I guess that's over here in this section. You'll see the dividing line for the area, right? So it has to be right here. There's no other choice. And that's kind of unfortunate because we're kind of halfway heading towards the main quest, but a side quest has shown up over here. So as you can see, when you continue to play the game, branching things, just like when you play the video game, is going to send you in different directions all over the map, right? Things are going to open up for you. We also got an increase on how much threat we can mitigate now, because when we do get threat, we can start placing it across multiple cards. I'm just going to do a quick check to make sure I didn't miss any threat we're supposed to place. Nope. So, and again, that's because we didn't pull an event this turn, which is awesome, thanks to it being on the other card. So this one down below, it's actually going to be kind of tough. So this says at the very bottom to clear 3 undead. And honestly, trying to clear 3 undead this early on when I haven't even leveled up, probably not the thing I'd want to go after anyway, just based on my experience with the game. So I'm going to probably continue to progress towards this, you know, progressing the main quest versus a side quest here. But, you know, we have the choice, right? It's an option we could go after. So that was my interaction. We moved here and we dealt with the wilderness, and we are now done. So at this point, this first player marker will come back over here, and we are going to now actually pull an event to see what happens. All right, so this is going to be a regular event, and it says there are forces working against you. Place a threat token on each quest and then discard this card. So we are going to have some threat come back. And actually, I can just grab the threat I used previously, and I get to choose how I want to divvy this up. Again, if I decided that I don't think this quest is one I want to go after, I might just actually lodge both the 2 threat on this one, because I really want to keep this one available to be able to complete in time, right? So I don't really care so much about this one at the moment. I'm okay if it was to disappear, say. Of course, I don't know what's on the opposite side if I fail it. That's part of the fun. Once the threat overrides the threshold, then you flip it over, and the fail could actually push you down a pretty negative path, potentially. So there's that you can weigh too. But we also have the option to take that threat and throw it up here, as I mentioned before, too many times by now. So we are going to, at this point, move into our turn. Where do I want to go? Probably want to keep heading towards the main objective, but why don't we check out maybe a cave? Maybe we go to like a dungeon and maybe have some, you know, do a little fighting, you know, see how that combat works. So let's go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's going to put us here, and that's going to push us into a combat. So let's talk about combat. So first off, let's take a look right here at this card. There's a reference for chapter number 1. So we're at the very top there in that row, cave, and you'll see 2 icons beside it that depict like an animal, and that correlates to this deck right here. We'll be drawing 2 cards, as it shows 2 of them, into these 2 locations right here. You're going to think of a dungeon as basically rooms. Each of the cards that'll come off that'll be an enemy are going to be in their own separate room, and you'll deal with 1 at a time as you move through them. It's worth mentioning there's a whole bunch of other kinds in here as well. You'll see, remember the undead icon there right in the center where the rune is? Those locations, that skull there, those are where you can find those individuals we need for that side quest. And I'll show you a couple of them, actually. They're quite scary. So I'll show you some of them from the decks we're not going to be drawing from. So if we flip these over to the opposite side, let's take a look. The first one here is the Dwarven Ballista Trap. So one of the things you can potentially find inside one of these dungeons. A Swinging Blade Trap. So traps are a lot of fun. Here's a vampire, and this is a Vampire Mistwalker, and this is an undead. So you can see, just based on the number of icons in here. Now this looks really confusing, but I promise you after we go through the combat, it's going to be super simplistic. But this is a character I'm not ready to go up against. It's a level 2 in the top left. I am not even there yet. So you can see how going after 3 undead for this particular side quest down there at the bottom objective would be very hard to pull off. Now going up even higher, we have the Bandit Chief here. This one's level 2. Thankfully, we're not going to be dealing with any of these decks right now. So the one we're going to be actually drawing from is here. We're drawing 2, again, based off the 2 icons there. So we're going to flip over the first one to find out what we have. And this is more like it. At the beginning of the game, we're going to have some simpler things. So what you're going to do is take a look at the enemy you have, a mud crab in this case. You'll see in the top left the level, it's 0. Basically, the level is there for your reference in terms of the overall character, or I shouldn't say character, but enemy strength, but more so for when you actually defeat it, whether or not it'll go back into the deck or it'll be discarded from the game completely. So if we had to have been level 1 going into this combat, which we are not, then if we had defeated the mud crab would be discarded from the game and would be gone, meaning that this is a low-level character, it's lower than our current level, and so we're not going to see it anymore. We're almost dismissing them as too easy to beat, basically. And that means that this deck changes, because now going forward, we're never going to see a mud crab again, we'll see different types of enemies, so it's scaling itself. And we also don't flip the second card right now. So again, we have our 2 cards here, and then the top right, we have the icon depicting what type of enemy it is. And then down below, it says Mud Crab, and this shows Sneak 1. So the very first thing you can do with combat, and I've grabbed the combat card here, you can see it says Sneak. 1 player, only 1 can do this at the beginning of combat. Thankfully, when I'm playing solo, it's going to be me, so I'm going to be able to do that. We'll talk about it in a second, but first, on the far left-hand side, it's the health of the creature. So where the actual heavy axe is shown, or the battle axe basically, which stands for kind of a heavy attack, it has defenses against a heavy attack. It doesn't have defenses against magic or against a light attack, magic being blue, or I should say magic being purple in this case, and yellow is representative of light attacks. But the red attacks, this thing can handle some big hits, but it can't handle the small hits. So we're going to take a color cube that corresponds to the color that's on the battle axe, which is red, and we're going to place it right where it is, basically depicting that it has 2 health. Down below, it has an XP value. It also has the 1 attack you can try to pull off with this die when it gets a chance to attack. Now, again, going back into how the combat starts, first it's Sneak, and then it goes into a typical combat round sequence. So, good news is we get to take advantage of this Sneak because we have it. And, well, not because we have it, but because we are the character that can take advantage of it. So we always get 3 dice when rolling for a Sneak. What are we trying to roll towards? Well, right on the card for Mud Crab, it says Sneak 1. We need 1 success off the icon depicted. We have 3 dice going in, but we also get an extra die for every single Sneak that's shown here as well, which is a bonus. So this is going to bump up our odds of being successful. And then if you take a look here, you'll see for Sneak, on this Sneak attack, I'm going to be able to pull off double damage, or I should say times 2 damage, because I will be using the Iron Dagger in this particular situation. It's pretty cool. And you can see there's other ways, as I talked about at the beginning of the video, of how we could bump this up even further. But again, that's just going to increase your odds of landing the icons on the Iron Dagger that we need to pull off an attack. So you're going to be rolling these dice in the Sneak step to try to land one of these as a circle success to ensure that we can actually do a Sneak attack. And then, with the rest of the results, we're hoping to land one of the icons depicted here, hopefully for swing or stab, those 2 rows, because a swing will do 1 yellow damage, which is 1 light attack damage worth, and that will go straight through against the enemy because their defenses only block against heavy attacks, or even better, the stab, which would be 2 damage. Now remember, these will be doubled, so it'll be even better. So hopefully we can get the really powerful one, but guess what? Either way, based on how much health this thing has, with only 2 health, we have basically, in essence, before I roll this, a 2 and a 4. So as long as we land either the diamond or the triangle, we are guaranteed to wipe this thing away like it's nothing. So let's roll and see how it goes. Another thing that could have stopped that is if we hadn't gotten the actual Sneak success. We got 1 for the success of the Sneak, which is good, so we can go ahead and do it now. And now because of that, we can look at all these dice don't matter in this case. It's just kind of overkill in the Sneak. And then we look at these to see what kind of attacks we can pull off. And based on our weapon we equipped, or we have on us, I'm going to go for the stab. And it's going to end up being a nice 4 damage attack because the yellow damage goes straight through. So this is going to be gone, and this has been defeated that quickly. Again, this will end up going back into the deck, so for now I'll just place it over here. We do get the 1 XP off of it though. So we'll come down here, and we're going to actually just go ahead and we'll clone this XP. So now we have a total of 5 in here, working our way up to 7 to get our very first upgrade. All right, so that was pretty smooth, and we're going to go ahead now and flip over this one going into the next area. And the other thing to mention, actually, before we move into the next one, the one thing you want to do is if you have used any of your stamina or your magicka, they would actually be replenished. So if that first combat had been a stronger enemy and we'd used a bunch of endurance in order to kind of help us out or push to get extra dice to roll, then we would replenish it in between rooms of the dungeon. We didn't need to because this is a pretty clean straight through win, but that will not always be the case. All right, so going into this room here, we have a skeever. Same thing. We have the ability to sneak again, and I mean, why wouldn't we? So the fun part is this sneak can really give you a leg up and could potentially wipe an enemy off the map. But look at the difference now. It's actually blocking the type of damage that my dagger does. So that's really unfortunate, which means it's going to be much tougher to actually kill this thing off in the very first hit, a sneak attack, basically. So we have a 3 there, and I'll walk you through this. Again, we're rolling for sneak again. Same thing as we did in the other one. But we are still looking for a single circle success, and my hope here is we can get the triangle on the roll as well. So let's see how it goes. Yep, oh, just barely. So we got the success, and we did get the triangle. The rest are not even going to need. So we are going to be able to pull off the sneak attack. The stab is the one I'm going to choose to resolve. It's going to be 2 damage, and it's going to be ×2, so it'll be 4. And then we come up here and we take a look at this character, and because this skeever can actually defend against the same type of attack damage that I'm throwing at it at a 3, we only do 4 minus 3, which is 1. So this only ticks down by 1. So it actually got out of this sneak attack and is still alive. So now we go into what's known as the normal round or normal combat round sequence, which is enemies attack first and then players go afterwards. We also are not going to be rolling the sneak dice anymore, so we can just take those 2 and throw them out of the equation for now. So we're going to come up here for the very first time and have an actual die roll for the enemy who's going to throw something at me. And how this works is really simplistic. What is listed on the card is what it will do. If it lands that particular face, it's going to do that particular attack and throw that damage type at you. And you can try again, similar to the enemies, to try to block it or, negate it in some way, but I just don't have it. My block for armor on the hide armor is yellow, so his damage type is going to go straight through against me. Now, if I happen to have had this as 2 red, if I get hit by this roll, then what would happen is if I negate all of the damage, I just take an endurance hit for blocking the damage, basically. So instead of taking any kind of like HP damage getting through, it just kind of tires me a little bit. So let's go ahead and find out how this goes, because we know this damage is going straight through anyway, if it actually rolls it. Oh, look at that. It got a bolt. And it's actually not one of the icons on the skeever, so we got out of it scot-free. Kind of a pathetic roll, actually. I kind of just dropped that. I rolled maybe once or twice. But regardless, I'm going to take it. So we go back to us, and now this is where things change, because this is the first time you're going to see an actual combat round that doesn't involve sneak out of the gate. So what you have to do in a typical combat round, or turn I should say, is you're going to choose what you want to actually do. So I want to choose to do stab. Stab is my best attack, although the odds of getting it are a little tougher. But you have to pay the endurance cost. So it says one-handed. There's a green icon there for endurance. It says stab. I need to get the triangle, and I'll get 2 damage. So I'm going to pay an endurance in order to, or I keep calling it endurance, but it's stamina, basically to do this. I'm going to go ahead and roll this. And the other thing that's worth mentioning is I do have the ability, thanks to where we're currently at in this section of the game board right here, you can see you have the ability to push. So if I roll this and I don't like what I get in order to pull off my attack, like if I don't get the triangle, I can start burning endurance in order to try and land it, right? So I'm going to hope I don't have to do that, because once you run out, then your health starts immediately getting affected. And of course, if it was a magic-based attack, then I'd be reducing the magicka one. But because this is like a physical weapon, it's going to be stamina. So, wow, that is an example of what not to roll. So that's not going to help me at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push once. I can push twice, but I'm going to push once to start, see if I can get what I need here. Okay, so we got ourselves... No, we didn't get the attack we wanted there, so we're going to push again a second time, and I'm going to hope that this lands. Come on. Oh, no, it didn't land at all. So my attack is a complete wash. Now, this actually hasn't happened to me before, so if I am not successful, I'm assuming there's nothing else I can do about this, because I pushed twice, and I have no other way to re-roll this, so a new combat round is going to begin. So basically similar to what happened with the enemy, is just I burned a lot of stamina and I didn't do a whole lot of damage, which is pretty you know, unhelpful for this whole situation. So now the thing is, I have 2 stamina left, it looks like. So I'm going to have to be really careful about this and really have to land some good hits here in the future. But let's see how this goes. Okay, so the enemy's going to go right now. We're going to grab the enemy die. We're going to roll, see if it hits me. Oh, does it hit? Oh, I managed to get past it again. Wow. This is going to come back to me. I'm going to choose to try and do the stab. I'm going to keep using my endurance on the bigger attack until I run out of stamina. I keep calling it endurance and stamina interchangeably. I'm sorry about that. Once I've run out of stamina, then I'll start doing swings. So we'll pay 1 in order to try and do another stab here. And let's see how we do. Yes, okay, oh, that was close. All right, we got it. So 2 damage, and again, we're not doing a sneak thing, so there's no ×2 here. It's just 2 damage, 2 yellow damage. That's all that's coming through. So we take a look at what we've got here, and it's 2 and 2. So you would think that'd be 0, which means nothing gets through, but always 1 damage gets through regardless. So that 1 damage will knock it from 2 to 1. So we're just slowly wearing this individual down. But also, you know, and the one thing too is, remember, at the very end of this combat, my stamina will go back up to full. So I'm not worried about it going to the end. The one I'm worried about going to the end is health. I don't want that to go to the end. All right, so another roll here for the skeever. It's making me work. Oh, and the skeever's going to hit me too, so it's going to bite me. So that's going to knock my health down by 1. And then we're going to come up here and we're going to, well, I should say we're going to come down here and we're going to do the, I guess at this point it doesn't matter. We could just do the swing going for the regular one, I think. But let me see what the odds are here, because the black diamond, I think, is only on, yeah, it's actually better odds to go for the other one. So I'm going to actually spend the stamina to go for the triangle. And we're going to keep hoping we land that, because otherwise I'm in trouble. Oh, it didn't happen. Okay, so that's no good. And I have no ability to push any further. So I'm now going forward just going to be swinging my dagger like a fool trying to make this happen. The enemy, on the other hand, is laughing at me and continuing to bite me while I try to figure this out. I'm going to go ahead now. I'm rolling and just doing my typical swing here. Come on. Yes, I got it. Okay, so that's 1 damage and 1 and 1. That's enough, right? Because even if it you know, comes out to a 0, I still get 1 off it. So this enemy has been killed as well. It goes up here, and I get an XP for that. So let's go over here. We'll just change this to a 3 and remove this. That makes it 6. So we're 1 away from being able to actually level up, which is pretty cool. And now I can talk about, now that we've seen combat, I can talk about how this goes back in the deck. Again, remember, I'm still level 0, so I haven't gone up to the first level yet. So because of that, these are going to go back in the deck, as I mentioned. So these 2 cards are going to flip over. I'm going to take the top card off the deck, add it to these 2 cards. I'm going to shuffle this, and then I'm going to place it on top. And that's going to add some variance later on when we run into this deck in the future. There'll be something new, but also something familiar still there. And again, remember, once I become more powerful than the cards or the enemies I'm going after in the dungeon, they will start being pulled out. Now let's just quickly talk about a couple things around combat just to sum this up. So at the very end of your combat series running through a dungeon here, you're going to replenish all of the tracks. So it's only in between rooms that you replenish stamina and magicka, but at the end of your combat, all the series of rooms you went through in that dungeon, now we're going to replenish all the rows back up to full. So that's the good news. The other thing I want to mention is this spot right here. You might be wondering what it is. Basically, if you're in combat and your health gets down to this position, it's basically considered like your final blow position. So just before you die, you basically have the opportunity to decide whether you want to run out of the dungeon or you want to push your luck and try to continue on with the battle. So it gives you a chance to save your skin if you want to go down that route. So that's what that is for. All right, so now that we got that all sorted, and we are done this turn right now as we finish the combat here in that cave. So we're going to go ahead and move this over here. We're not going to be pulling an event because it's on this card. But what I'm going to focus on now is heading towards this quest. So we're going to go 1, 2. We're going to go up here. and this is where the next quest is, which is right here. So it states, I'll try to round up a number of motivated cutthroats and point them in the right direction. That way I'll just stroll in afterwards to take the spoils. Now we're going to make this roll in a second, but I want to show something to you, or at least point something out. Back when I was inside of Winterhold, when I had moved from Windhelm to Winterhold, the one thing I also wanted to show you here on this card was when you're inside of a stronghold, you can see all the different things you can potentially do. We won't be able to see everything in this video, and we of course don't have a lot of the market stuff going on here, but you can do things like upgrade and enchant items, sell items, buy items, craft items, buy a horse, all that kind of stuff going on there. So just a heads up as to, you know, those strongholds are certainly good spots to go to. Unless, of course, you have a whole bunch of threat on them, and of course they've been degraded down in terms of what you're able to do there. You can even, you know, at some point it can be closed to you, and you have to pay to get in if you put so much threat on it. So it can be bad. All right, so we're in this location. Let's do this roll here for the hiring of mercenaries. The one reason I wanted to continue pushing this main quest is because I actually have money. Remember I got money way at the beginning, 5 gold? Well, I can actually use that money to push with additional dice, meaning my chance of success here, I have a whole bunch of rolls, which is great. So I'm doing 3 white dice. I do not have this speech skill yet. I need 3 white circles in order to make this work out. I'm calling them circles, but 3 white icons that are circular. And then I can push if I want to, which I probably will need to if I need 3 of them, even though the odds are in my favor on this roll because those icons are easier to get than others. I got 2 of them. Okay, so 2 of them are good. We're going to go ahead and tick this down by 1 in a second to roll this. So really I'm paying 1 to re-roll this to get that other success, and we got it. So we're going to have to break this down into a couple. We'll have to break this down to 4. So let's go ahead and clone this out like so. And we'll just put 4. So we had to spend some money to hire our mercenaries. Very thematic. Not much, though, so that's pretty good. And at this point, we've successfully passed this one. We'll flip it over and see what it says. So it says, success. My negotiation skills saved the day. Gain 2 XP and a treasure, and we're going to update where our quest is currently going in terms of the progress of this thing. We don't have any threat on this when this goes away, so it's not going to wash away this threat. This threat is tied specifically to this card. So let's take our 2 XP. That's actually really good because I'm going to be able to, and it won't be. Oops, let's make sure I don't mess this up. Let's clone this again, and we'll flip these over like so. So yeah, 2 XP, so we are up to a total of 8, which means we're going to be able to upgrade right now, and I can talk to you about that in a second too. But first, let's do the upgrade right now so I don't forget about it. We'll come back to the card in a second here. So basically, when you're going to go ahead and level up, you're going to do 2 major things. You're going to spend all, your XP fully in order to basically unlock a slot here to get something really cool. So 7 XP is being spent right now. I have 1 remaining, which will stay there as I work towards 8 again to unlock the next slot. Now, when I've unlocked one, I come up here and I'm able to purchase one of these skills. Now, for me, it makes tons of sense to get Sneak because Sneak, works perfectly with one of my skills here. You can see after learning Sneak, which I just did, I'm now going to get Sneak 1, which is awesome. So you'll see that that's going to definitely, be an advantage. You also have it right here on the tile as well. So this is really just, further boosting it. Now at a certain point, focusing on Sneak is going to become a little redundant. I'm going to have so many dice for rolls, I should start focusing on other things. But for the purposes of this demo, I'll pick this one just to show you that that ties in. I could have easily picked pickpocketing if I wanted to, and then every single time I'm doing an encounter of these types, I'd be gaining money like crazy as I just constantly pickpocket people. Now the other thing you do when you upgrade or level up is you're going to move one of your skills down the row as it gets stronger. So for me personally, I think the stamina one is the one I want to bump up based on how things were going in that combat. I'm not too concerned about my health yet, but my stamina ran up really fast based on how that went. And you'll see, like, as you move up the row, you're going to hit thresholds. Now, right now, I'm not hitting any thresholds, but once I get over this row here and get into this space over here, I'm going to gain an extra ability to push another die during combat. And I already had the ability, you've seen it before, for 2, but now I'd be able to do 3 and then finally 4. So that can really be helpful. All right, so that's basically leveling up right there. The other thing I want to show you, because you won't see it because I won't go that far into the gameplay, is once I've gathered up 8 XP, I unlock the next skill, then I gather 9, get the next skill, and so on and so forth, all the way to 14. You'd think that'd be the end, but it's not. What ends up happening is it wraps right back around to the first one. It starts at 15 XP to get the next upgrade. And what are you doing at that point? You're flipping over the token and it's getting increasingly stronger. And you're going through all of these 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, like all the way up through. So you can see the leveling is really well streamlined in here, where it doesn't take a whole bunch of managing to deal with it, but it's constantly making your character stronger and stronger for all the nastiness that's out there. So that's really cool. Just kind of want to explain that to you, you know, just in case you thought it might have ended at 14. So that is that. We got to finish off this card though. So we also get a treasure from the deck up here. So we're going to take a look at this deck right here. I'm just going to give it, I think these are all A's. Yeah, so we have A treasures and B. A is the best, B is a little bit lower. So I'm just going to go ahead and shuffle this, and we're going to grab the card that comes off. We got the Ebony Sword. That thing looks awesome. Look at it. I mean, it's going to use, oh, good thing I just bumped up my stamina, because I got 2 different types of damage I can throw at things now. That's awesome. You also see down below, you have the ability to block as well. That's something else in terms of defenses and stuff. And I could also potentially even just sell this thing if I wanted to make a whole bunch of gold, because I wasn't really interested in having it. So for now, we'll just go ahead and place it down here in one of our hand slots. And that is going to be that for now. We won't really see much of that in use, because we've done our combat at this point. But we're now going to go ahead and read the rest of this. So the next thing we're going to do is upgrade our quest marker. It's going to move to Solitude. This one's going to go way up here. And by way, I mean right next to me. So that upgrades or updates that quest path to the next spot. It says the mercenaries make a quick job of the bandits. They also take most of the treasure. However, I find disquieting evidence regarding this particular individual. And it's 180 is the card we have to pull. So we're going to continue finding more information here. So what do we got? We got, and you'll see this is where the card is actually calling for 180, but it pulled 183 because we had originally pulled out a bunch of cards beforehand that were, going to stop things. They were more so focused around multiplayer, right? So this is going to continue the solo progression of this thing. So this card is now gone, and any threat attached to it, but there isn't any. And now we have the Thalmor. So it says evidence card. So Movea is definitely working for the Thalmor. The organization has no right to operate in Skyrim. The High King needs to know about this urgently. The main objective now is to gather all players in Solitude and then flip all the evidence cards we've collected when we're there. So that is our major objective now. So you can see the storyline continuing to branch out for this chapter. One thing I want to show you really quickly actually is world quests. So yeah, that worked out really good. So there's world quests over here. Basically, you want to think about events, coming off the top and ending up over here specific to your character, but world quests are going to actually end up in that world quest section of the map, and they're going to sit out there for anybody to go after, right? So you're going to have a new quest marker that's a world one, which is these gray ones here, and these global ones are going to sit in the location depicted, and you're going to go there and make that check and continue that path as well. So something else for you to go after, basically. Now, up top here, we have a majority of these tokens. I think for the most part, you've seen all of these, but I'll give you a close-up of all the different types of things or skills you can basically upgrade. You have the ability to enchant and upgrade your weapons over time. So as I was talking about, if you're in a stronghold, you can actually do that. And this is a really cool thing to show you guys, because I thought the way they did this was really smart. So let's say you have the Ebony Sword here, and you wanted to actually go ahead and enchant it, right? So if you're inside of a stronghold, you want to enchant it. It says the enchantment cost is going to be 5 of the, and I forget the name of it, is the soul gems. So you're going to use 5 soul gems in order to enchant this. So basically what happens is the enchantment is going to give you the muffle sneak 1. So you're going to place your card like this, right? And now you've enchanted your card. Or you could potentially use it as an upgrade, and you could place your card like this, right? And now you've given a +1. Now that's a different cache. You'd have to use 5 ore in order to upgrade it for the bottom section of the card, and you can choose which one you want to do, which one of these benefits you want on your card. But you could go like this for the +1 on that particular row, or you could say, I don't want that, I'd rather have this, and upgrades, something else in terms of you know, your attack or your armor and things like that. So it's really cool. I thought that was really smart because it cuts down the number of cards needed to handle upgrading, and you've got 3 essentially just with this, like 3 different ways to upgrade you know, the card, which is, I think, very cool. 2 overall, but 3 based on the positioning of where they sit on the cards. Really cuts down on just the need for multiple decks of upgrades all over the place. So I thought that was extremely well designed. And again, as we've seen before, I talked to you about certain individuals showing up and then potentially being thrown away. There will be characters that you're going to get called blades inside of the game as you progress the campaign. And as you can see, if you fail certain quests, so let's say hypothetically, like I max this thread out to 4 and I flip it over and I fail it, it might tell me, and it doesn't in this one, but it might tell me to, you know, go ahead and get rid of one of the blades. So it might say you have to go into here, you know, into your blade deck, and you're going to toss one of these characters, and you're going to go back to the box, and they're never going to come back. And that means that interaction and that quest path and the chances of, you know, interconnecting with that character are now gone, just like that. And it can change everything about the storyline and the side quests in the game and stuff like that. So, you know, it's just one of a number of things that can you know, send you on a completely different path, and I think that's really cool. So hopefully this helps you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really enjoyed what I saw here and really found the rule set to just kind of click just naturally. It didn't take a long time to really get a grasp on what was going on here. I really hope this video helps you make an informed decision as to whether or not this is something right up your alley. If you're someone who's played Skyrim before and you're wondering whether a tabletop adaptation would be really cool, you're looking for a narrative-driven game and you just love the IP of Skyrim, I mean, this is the ticket. This really is. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.